The miracles of technology. All right, Scott, so good to see you.
Hey, everybody.
Scott gave a
Hi.
really good presentation on diabetes at the Campbell Community Center this Monday. Um, there were, I don't know, close to what, 15 to 18, 15, 16 people that came, and 21 had signed up, but we always have a few less come than sign up. But it was really a really good presentation. He's given it before. It's online. You can find it. Maybe it wasn't the exact same presentation, but similar presentation you can find online if you go to the archive session on the website, if you're interested in diabetes issues.
Yeah, same slides I used, but yeah, every lecture is a little bit different, of course.
This time I was really engaged with the insulin resistance. You spent time in such a way that I really, it made such sense about the problems associated with it. And you also really made it clear that the glucose tolerance test is really the gold standard of deciding whether someone has insulin resistance or not. And that all these other tests that are being used and promoted by the keto, paleo people just are not accurate in helping decide whether a patient has insulin resistance or not.
Yep.
So uh, I don't see anybody. I see a couple people who are in the room who made it to the movie. Um, and a potluck is coming up. Maybe you could tell us about that, Scott.
Yeah, on Saturday the 15th at noon at the Springfield First Christian Church there at 395 West Centennial. We're having a plant-based potluck, so we're going to try to be having those every quarter. Our last one was at the Grange in October, so we're due for another one. So hope you guys can come out. It's all the information's on the website and the newsletter and all that. So
What movie did you guys see?
Eating for Tomorrow was the one we watched.
Now you can purchase that eating, or we were able to, I was able to purchase that movie for $7 when Ocean Robbins in January did I think it was a food revolution kind of thing. And they were promoting that movie, Eating for Tomorrow. And at the time, it was like $7. I could get a digital copy. And so I did that. And I don't know if it's still available. I went on the site and I couldn't find the movie, but there may be, if someone wanted to spend more time, a way to write to them or figure out it's worth the money. We spend $6 on a movie, which is not so great sometimes. Um, if we're not going to go to the movie theater, which we don't do too often. We've been to one movie that was Wicked this last year. And it was pretty good on the big cinema screen. Okay, anybody have any questions, any thoughts? Go ahead, Joan, fire away.
So, Charlie, my daughter gave me this, and I'm reading it's organic roasted seaweed snack, and I'm reading the ingredients. And if it says seaweed, is that good enough? It doesn't
Well,
say,
seaweed is good. Does it have anything else like oil or
yes,
expeller oil, or what does it say?
it says organic seaweed, organic sunflower oil, organic sesame oil, and sea salt.
Yeah, so depending on how much oil is in that and how much salt is actually put on those, um, if, what is the serving size?
Oh, let's see. 1/5 of the pack of this pack.
That's,
And
that's a pretty good size serving.
and there are 5 servings in the pack. So it
Okay.
doesn't tell me how many little wafers or what. So I'm not sure.
How many,
Okay, so there's five servings, so it's 1/5 of a pack. So how many calories are there in the serving?
20.
wow.
Pretty good. Pretty amazing. You could eat a bunch of that supposedly. Now, how much fiber is in there?
0.
0 fiber. Okay. How much sodium is in there?
40 milligrams.
All right, 40 milligrams. So even if you ate the whole package,
Yeah,
5 servings, the most you would get would be 200 milligrams, which you could have up to 1,500 to 2,000 for the day. So that's not going to be a problem with the salt. How much fat is in there?
0.
Well, I don't
0.
know. If they're using oil, I can't imagine it's really 0.
What
Yeah.
that means is it could be less than 1 gram in a serving. If it's less than 1 gram in a serving, then they can say 0. That's
Okay.
a rule.
So I would say if they have 0 fat, it's less than a gram, that the benefit probably outweighs the disadvantage of having a bit of oil with those. That's my thought. Scott, what's your thought at this point in time?
I mean, I guess if you take it out of the package, is there like a lot of oil, like liquidy oil around it? Because it could be that most of it's in the package or on the liner of the package and not ingesting as much. But yeah, if it's less than a gram in a serving, it's probably all right. It's minuscule amount.
Yeah,
One.
I've
Tiny-
felt those before. It's like nori.
So that's the question, is this nutritious? Should I be looking for something more nutritious if I'm looking for nori?
So they do have nori sheets, and I think Dr. Greger says to eat a couple nori sheets, which they're pretty big in my thought process from what I've seen. If you were eating 1/5 of a package of those, it seems to me like more than 2 nori sheets because they come a little bigger. The taste of that is probably more mild than wakame, but wakame has some medium and long chain fatty acids, that omega-3s, that would be preferable to add to your diet, so you wouldn't necessarily have to think too much about taking a supplement. So wakame, 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 but it has a more potent flavor, and it may be hard to tolerate compared to nori. So if you're looking for a little iodine and you're looking for some omega-3s, the nori that you have there is probably fine. If you didn't want the oil with it, if you had some problem with high blood pressure, you couldn't control your diabetes, and you wanted to be really strict about this, you might do something like Dulse, which doesn't have the oil with it. It just says Dulse, DULSE.
It's
Anybody have
difficult to
any?
find.
What's that?
It's difficult to find. Where do you find dulse and wakame and nori?
Yeah, so you could go to the we've been buying it on Amazon, but we found it at Whole Foods, and I think you could get it at the Korean. They must have a Korean market in Eugene. We're kind
There's
of
a Sunrise. There's a Sunrise market, Asian market there at 29th and Willamette too. They got
Yeah,
all of the,
Sunrise should have it. We're kind of signing off of Amazon, so we're going to be changing our life. So, we're going to be looking for markets and stuff around here.
Okay.
And if you have problems with it, let us know and we'll let you know what we do over the next month or so.
So I guess part of the question was when I'm looking at packages and I look at the ingredients and it just says seaweed, is that not good enough? Should the ingredients actually say nori?
No, seaweed would be fine.
Okay.
Seaweed would be fine. And you could get by with that if a serving is a fifth of a. Does it say how much iodine is in there?
No. No.
That's kind of odd.
It says there's some iron and some potassium. But that's it.
Well, I couldn't imagine that they would be stripping out the iodine from seaweed. You might call the company and ask them, how much iodine do you have in here?
It's made in Korea.
Yeah, so you could, it's distributed from in here though, and they would be able to contact the manufacturer and let you know if there is something in the process that depletes the iodine.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any experience with that, with nori or seaweed or dulse is what we've been using and wakame. Those are the two. And Gregor says those are fine. It's kind of like a teaspoonful of wakame. We've found those granules of wakame at Whole Foods in the past.
The only experience I have, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can, Jamie.
With that stuff is that when you go to the Asian grocery stores, because it's such a big part of their diet, there's this massive variety of stuff available. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's at least one store here in Eugene, Springfield area, but probably more.
I wish I could get away from Amazon, but yeah.
Well, we're going to take the leap. How about any other questions? Marcia, you are unmuted. Do you have any questions or did
Well,
it?
it's not really, it's kind of a question, but it's also kind of a little asking for some help.
Okay.
Lately, for last month, I have been kind of emotionally stressing eating. I know what I need to do, but I'm having a little trouble doing it. Because
Emotionally stress eating like at nighttime or like during the day?
throughout the day, really. And I'm trying, I find I'm eating a little more than stuff that I shouldn't be eating.
So how is the stuff that you shouldn't be eating, how is that arriving into your household?
Well, I bought some of it, and a lot of it was when I was gone. And then the other members of the family of the house have bought it.
So other people in your household are buying these foods that are not particularly healthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have made some of them just to see if one was my granddaughter said I could do something. I wasn't sure I could, but it's like, it's there, you know. But eating a little more bread than what I had for a long time.
So when you get up in the morning, do you eat breakfast?
I do.
And how much do you eat? What is your breakfast consist of?
greens, I've been eating salads, greens.
Now, I have frequently
beans,
said that with Marco
oatmeal,
Rubio out of the
berries.
Senate,
Hold
Tommy Tuberville.
hold on a
Republican senator
second.
from
I-
Alabama,
hold on a
dumbest
second, because
person in the Senate.
somehow
And that statement is
I
still
got,
true. But I think at this point, I
Well, I
need to
got-
expand it. Because I no longer think that
I'm not-
Tommy Tuberville is just the dumbest person in the Senate.
Ah.
Jeez. You know, I pushed I guess the wrong button. Okay. Marcia,
We're trying to
sorry
get away
about
from that
that.
tonight.
We don't get enough political stuff. We need more.
I know. Very sorry about that. I don't know how that came about, other than that was something that came up on a pop-up and I tried to minimize it and I played it apparently. So anyway, bottom line is you've been kind of cooking some things for your grandchildren, and you know, if other people are buying these things that aren't particularly healthy, so they're in your environment, which is
Yeah,
making it difficult for you to really stay on track.
yeah.
And so the breakfast thing, what was it you were eating for breakfast again?
My greens, collards, chard, spinach.
Are you eating a
Kale.
couple cups of greens?
Maybe a cup and a half, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe you could increase that to a full couple cups or 2.5 cups. You know, you want to kind of fill yourself up. And those foods have cell walls, so they're going to kind of get down to your lower intestinal tract and kind of shut off your desire to eat. It's called the ileal brake. And then what else do you eat besides greens for breakfast?
I fix a salad because, what's his name? Gregor suggested it. Beans,
How much beans would you get?
I try for about a cup and a half.
Well, that's pretty good. Are you eating that all for breakfast?
Yeah, and my berries and my oatmeal.
And how much oatmeal?
Probably about a cup,
A cup?
maybe.
Is
Yeah.
that a cup that's cooked up to a cup, or is it a cup before you cook it up with the water?
After it's cooked.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a
so
half a cup,
maybe increasing that to a cup and a half to 2 cups, because 1 cup of uncooked usually, it's usually you're getting about twice as much water in there almost.
Mhm.
So if you just add some more oatmeal to what you're eating and you really get yourself filled up a bit more for breakfast. And
Right.
or you eat it as a snack 2 or 3 hours later. You want to kind of increase these lower calorie density foods so that you suppress your appetite, so that you're not reaching for foods. You want to produce your own what are called GLP,
Yeah,
glucagon-like peptide particles in your body. And the way you're going to do that is by having more plant food that is not processed,
right.
comes in
Yeah.
its natural form. So if you kind of load your calories a little closer, now you may have some emotional issues that you need to talk out or walk out, or
Yeah.
you know, I don't know what you do to deal with stress. I see you're on your bicycle, which is a great thing. Exercise is wonderful. But talking and journaling and meditation and yoga, those are kind of things that, you know, we might do occasionally, but doing them on a more regular basis for a little bit longer time may help overcome some of the craving that you have. I don't know. Does anybody else have any other thoughts? Have they struggled with this? And go ahead, Van.
So, Marcia, were you in on this book? What was the guy from Holland that, you know, body keeps the score?
Oh, yeah, I have that.
Okay,
yeah.
so listen, I had a terrible automobile accident. I was T-boned on my side, cracked ribs, went into the metal dashboard, knocked out. My body came out partially out of the car. It was a small truck. My leg caught in the door and I was drugged a little bit. So I cannot begin to tell you. I was knocked out. I don't have any memory of it.
Right.
So I didn't think, it was a big deal.
Right.
And, but yet I was a mess over the years as far as stress and anxiety and all that goes. But I had I kept, was being encouraged to do EMDR. Do you know the author? So did you read some of the book?
I have, yeah, yeah,
So I think he recommends strongly EMDR.
right, yeah.
I finally practiced it and it's been life changing.
Can you define for the rest of the group what that is?
It's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Mm.
And I think Charlie, didn't he highly recommend that?
I
EMDR.
believe that he did.
Yeah.
I don't have any familiarity with doing it, so it hasn't stuck in my toolbox of things that I recommend, because I've never seen
Right.
anybody who had benefit from it.
Have you ever worked with people that have had trauma? Or have you ever talked with them at all about their trauma?
Yeah, but I'm not
Yeah.
really what you would consider an expert on this
No.
stuff.
And it hadn't stuck with me before either. And I hadn't, but I finally ran the process more, and it's been life-changing. It's been wonderful.
And where did you find access to instruction on this or
Well,
or
I was
help with it?
I was working with a counselor who I met there in Eugene at the Unitarian Universalist, and he kept recommending it to me, and and I worked a little bit with him, but it was enough to you know anything about it, Marcia? Do you know anything about EMDR? So the basic thing that started off with, you move your eyes back and forth, and typically, a lot of times you work with a counselor and they may move their hand back and forth, and you follow and you think about the traumatic event or events, and you keep focused. And ideally you might do it an hour a day, but maybe you'll be lucky to do it 15 minutes or half an hour, and the counselor I was working really encouraged me, even if you do it 10 minutes a day. But I started to do it more, and it was maybe 20 minutes or half an hour a session, a day for only 4 days, for gosh sakes, so it wasn't a huge amount. So
Yeah.
you can go online and you can find, even on YouTube, they'll have a light. I've seen them before, that you'll follow instead of a hand like that. It'll be a light moving across the screen. You could find it online. And you just focus on the traumatic events.
Right.
Well, thanks for going over that.
Yeah, but it depends. It depends, because is it real trauma? I'm not sure if you can. I think does it need to be trauma? I'm not sure. It can be just stressful events. I don't know.
Well, it's events. My one sister lost her husband. My other sister wound up in the hospital for a few days and in rehab, going over to try to help my sister move. Well, once when her husband died, and again to help her move. And
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
My trauma, but they're my little sisters,
Yeah.
So, I had to do, so it's just trying to come down, I guess, from that. And of course, I'm still going to worry about them.
This is a lot of stuff that has come at once, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So the only other suggestion that I have for you is on the website. I think you might try contacting Pam.
yeah, I thought of that, yeah.
And just see if she has any resources that she might recommend to help you with the issue.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I thought of doing that too. I just need to get myself in gear and do it.
Okay, well, I'm pushing you in that direction then.
Good, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, who else? Anybody else have a comment, thought, question? We got plenty of time here.
Has Lisa announced the new book?
Yes, it's the, I'll have it in the
Good energy.
good energy. Yep.
Here, wait, I have it. I haven't looked at it, but I'll flash you the cover.
Okay,
Um,
Has anybody else here in the class been reading it?
Yeah, I started, I'm on like page 20 or something like that. You
Yeah.
just started it, yeah. So
Alice, you need to talk when you hold it up.
I'm sorry. Good Energy by Casey Means.
Thank you.
Looks good. How about I haven't opened it yet.
Thank you.
Is it food focused or?
a little
Uh,
bit, yeah, a little bit. It's all about metabolism and stuff like that. But if you look at the recipes at the back, it's from the low carb camp. So that's why I was surprised she picked that book, because actually I've watched a podcast of Casey Means with her brother. It's all talking about this book already, so I've already kind of seen it. I mean, they're pretty plant forward and whatnot, and it's all, I think she's overall got good ideas and things, and it looks like it's going to be good. But if you look at the recipes at the back, it's got butter and chicken and it's all it, and if you look at the other authors that are writing the forward, that are like supporting the book, it's all low carb people, David Perlmutter, and the Grain Brain guy, and so it's all the kind of some of the low carb camp people that are coming out in support of it. So taking it with I'm going to read it, of course, but it's taking it with a grain of salt there a little bit about some of the nutrition stuff.
You guys are really strongly in support of Grieger and all the stuff he believes in, and all the other doctors that support that. Rather, it's easy to get into a true believer and not reach out and be open to other information. But I would assume you guys are pretty much open to other. Are you analyzing? Are you researching some? Are you open to other stuff? I've got to, I'm a firm believer. But I'm not studying. Are you guys studying at all other ways of eating?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've as far as low carb, I've been there, done that. I was in the low carb camp like 15 years ago. I read Atkins' book and I followed a low carb diet for 3 years, and I keep up with the science, and it's just the same thing over and over. It's like Greger says and McDougall says, the truth never goes away. The truth is always the
Yeah.
truth. And so, yeah, there's, like I've talked about in classes many times, that, if you're doing a low carb ketogenic type of diet, there are good aspects to it. You're avoiding processed foods. They tend to eat a little bit more vegetables than the standard American diet. So it has good aspects. It's just that, when you start looking too reductionistically at things like saturated fat and things like that, which is what they always fall back on. Oh, the studies on saturated fat are inconclusive. And even T. Colin Campbell will agree with that. Oh yeah, if you just look at the saturated fat studies, it's not slam dunk. But that's the reductionistic look at nutrition. And when you look at holistic view of nutrition, then it becomes a little more apparent what's the healthiest dietary pattern. So it's just that all that stuff that there's always those arguments, and they believe in it so much that they because they like to eat butter and they like to eat meat
Yeah.
and things like that. And even then you could fall back on, well, there's no, just because you can eat meat and dairy and things like that doesn't mean you should. You know, when you look at environmental aspects and pandemics and sustainability and all the other
Yeah,
things. And
totally.
then again, only a whole food plant-based diet has ever been shown to reverse heart disease. And so there's no ketogenic diet study that's ever been shown to reverse heart disease. And there are studies on low carb diets showing you worsen heart disease and worsen blood flow in the heart and all these things. And so that's where you gotta, those are the arguments that can be made if you're just trying to battle against people that are doing ketogenic low carb diets.
How would your energy I mean, better now, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've kept an open mind to take on restricted time eating.
Yeah.
And that was something that's new over the last year. But when it comes to who do I trust for reviewing the literature and being, providing me with truly evidence-based sources, it still boils back to Greger, Bernard, Ornish, Clapper. These people have been stellar in their
Research. Yeah.
in the research, the way they present it, the clarity in which they do it, where they show you the articles they use, the peer-reviewed articles, so that you can, decide for yourself whether they're pulling the wool over your eyes. But I'm not a researcher, so I'm not doing my own research like that. And I'm not combing through these articles. I'm just seeing the benefits that people are getting from following the advice of the whole food plant-based community. The other thing that you might consider following is, I think it's US News and World Report. They do us a review of the best diets over the last year, and keto paleo are never at the top.
Oh, really?
They're at the bottom.
Plant-based diet that they're encouraging, they're always at the bottom. So if you want to see what the news people actually have to say, Scott, isn't it US News and World Report or something like that?
I think so. Yeah, it's ketogenic low carb diets are always near the bottom. I think carnivore is the worst. Is like, and so if you're just looking at, you'd always also fall back on the people the organizations that have authority in nutrition. So Harvard School of Public Health, the World Health Organization, the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, Chan School of Public Health, and then look at the Eat Lancet Commission. So like all of the authorities in nutrition across the planet, that there is a consensus that it doesn't have to be vegan or 100% plant-based, but it's all that what they all have in common is they all recommend a more whole food plant predominant diet, and none of them recommend a low carb ketogenic diet. Zero. So it's like, why would anyone put trust in that when nobody of any academic credence when it comes to nutritional science even recommends it? So that's another argument you could make.
Who was the person that recommended the Good Energy book?
What's Casey Means is the author, but
yeah. I mean, that chose it for the book club.
Well, Lisa Chick does a survey, and she has a list of like 10 different books, and we all rank them. And I actually ranked that one towards the bottom for myself because I saw that it was coming from a kind of the low carb camp. But then I thought, well, it doesn't, like we had some other books that haven't been plant-based, and we're just learning about other things, like sleep health and circadian rhythm and the time restricted eating, and those weren't coming from authors that had much knowledge in nutrition necessarily. We're just trying to learn other things with the book club, but I, like I said, I haven't read this one yet, and we'll see, how much of it goes into that. And I have read some of the books from the other camps and stuff. So it's not like, and you know, like I said, I was in that from that camp at one time before I actually studied nutrition for myself and saw that the data wasn't strong for that, just short-term studies and stuff. So, yeah.
I
Well,
hope Lisa, go ahead there.
So there's a really interesting website called Viva Longevity with Chris McCaskill, Macaskill, and he's a diehard vegan. Not so much for the health reason, I mean, for the health reasons too, but because he started out as an earth scientist studying, you know, climate, and he was talking about how he was involved with getting the lead out of paint way back when. And so he does this. One of the things he does is he says he interviews the researchers, because the researchers, a lot of them are kind of like in their labs doing their stuff thing and everything, and they don't go out and, you know, give talks and all that kind of stuff. And so he wants to get down to the nitty gritty. And he's really interesting. He likes people who disagree with him, so he can, you know, anyway, he has a really good thing on the PFAS stuff. And so if you go online to the website, you can, you know, in fact, he interviews Dr. Greger when his How Not to Age book came out. So he and his wife did too. She's kind of funny too. But anyway, so I learn a lot from that, because he kind of comes at things from a different way. I mean, I'm kind of into this whole foods plant-based, and that's what I see all the time. So it's kind of interesting. But like I say, he's kind of got a little different take on it, because a lot of it's environmental for him. But anyway, for what it's worth, it's interesting.
I'm sorry, did you say P Fest?
What?
No, I guess not.
No, this it's Viva Longevity.
Yeah, there was something in when you were talking there, I missed out on. I thought it said P Fest. What would that have been? Oh, well.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. You said PFAST or PFest, and I don't know what that is.
It must have been, maybe it was one word, or yeah, something went, yeah. Okay, no problem.
You know, the opposite, the meat eating people, they had a conference, and he was asked to give a talk at that. And so he was talking about what he was telling them, and their arguments and his arguments and everything. And one really interesting thing about him, how he kind of got interested in nutrition, was when he was in high school, I think. He did some after school work as a caddy. And one of the people he was a caddy for was, oh gosh, way back when. I'm drawing a blank. I'll think of it. But he was on television for years and years and years. He did amazing feats of strength in his 90s on his birthday.
Jack LaLanne.
Jack LaLanne, yeah. So he was a caddy for Jack LaLanne, and so I don't know whether his family or his mother was a Seventh-day Adventist.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he got some really good
Yeah, there.
background
Yeah.
because of, well,
Yeah.
for a while he was also a carnivore, but you know, then later switched when as far as the environment. But anyway, so he's got lots of different videos, and he puts a new one out every so often. And
What was the author's name?
his name is Chris, Chris, and it's MACASKILL.
McCaskill.
Caskill, yes. And if you really want to see something very interesting, he tells the story of his life on The Proof with Simon Hill. And if you go on there and you put his name in, you can find this. And it's 2.5 hours. And he was living on the streets as a kid, and he'll tell, he tells about that. I mean, the
Nancy,
streets of San Francisco. Yeah.
there was a question about PFAS.
Oh,
Defining.
PFAS. Oh, that's what it was. Oh, the polyalkyl things that are so toxic in our environment.
Like
That,
in nonstick pans and
Oh,
yes,
hey,
yes,
things like
thank-
that.
yes. He has
Thank you. Yeah.
a very, very good article on that. A very good overview and everything.
Where,
So
where are we
that's-
gonna get this chemical? Where does it come from?
Oh, it's in everything. Oh, one of the things it's really bad in is the firefighting foam.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're finding this all over the world. Practically everybody has PFAS
Yeah.
in their bodies, which is a toxic
Yeah.
chemical. So
Microplastics and yeah.
yeah, so yeah, but he got an interesting website, and he has a lot of good information. And one of the things he was talking about is a lot of people denigrate epidemiology, and he says that's where you get the really good information. So,
What is epidemiology?
oh, you look at populations, and their what they get, and it's kind of what T. Colin Campbell did in China.
Oh, okay.
Epidemiology study. Yeah.
Look at large populations
Mhm.
for what?
Oh,
Diseases and states of health, or
yeah. So like he was talking about the oh gosh, the Nina Teicholz, she says the the study that kind of Ansel Keys, and she really puts that down, and he goes and he says, hey, that was a really good study, and it kept on going, I think, for about 50 years or so. But I think it was in that study he was saying what they did was they kind of what T. Colin Campbell did. They went to the villages where people tend to eat, historically and all that, where they were eating the same diet more or less, the whole village, and then they would look at the health and morbidity and mortality of these populations, and
Yeah,
then
it was called
correlate them.
it was called the 7 country study.
Yeah, and so he talks about that and how that was a really good study, even though Nina Teicholz is always putting it down. Now, all the carnivore people put that study down and say, oh, and cholesterol is not bad for you, and they have their song and dance that they give to make themselves feel better, I guess.
Not to mention the blue zone. They can't I don't know how they argue against the blue zones. Nobody's eating the carnivore diet in the blue zones. But hey, go ahead, Joan. Did you have a question?
I just want to give a shout out and a kudos to the doctors that are working with whole food plant-based. When I share with other people how whole food plant-based has totally changed my life, one of the things that's often asked is if I could recommend a whole food plant-based doctor. So I'm excited that people like Lisa are coming along. I'm excited that Scott and Charlie have stayed focused on this. And I just hope that this continues to grow, because as I share just a little bit, people are hungry for it. People are becoming more aware, and thank you for all you've done.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I find a lot of people, I guess I have to get away from saying vegan, because as soon as I say that, it's like you know? And I need to I guess I need to find better ways to approach it. And one thing I've been doing lately is I have a lot of health problems in my family. Um, and so, I go to potlucks and I say, hey, I really need to eat whole foods plant-based, or well, I call it vegan because it's just, people don't even know what whole foods plant-based is. And I find people are a lot more willing to work with, the no gluten stuff rather than not having dairy or eggs. The eggs are so expensive now. I can say, in fact, that I was at the grocery store, somebody was buying eggs, and I said, hey, do you know if you're cooking, you don't have to use the eggs. You can use a flaxseed egg. And so this lady, she was going to go look up how to do a flaxseed egg.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not, I hear you saying that you feel you're kind of turning people off when you use the term vegan, right? So, Charlie and Scott, what do you think? Is Whole Foods enough will they get the idea? That seems like a more of a neutral term. Will that give them the idea of what we're talking about, Whole Foods plant-based? Will they understand that, that may be an option. What do you think about that?
They need a bit more of an explanation than just Whole Foods.
Yeah.
I go into eat foods that are grown in nature that you can pick off the tree, pull out of the ground, harvest like oats, and minimally process them. In other words, you heat them up or maybe you peel them, but you don't chop them up into really fine food that can be absorbed high up in your intestinal tract. That's what I go to now.
Yeah, I
think
need to
people
improve
can understand that. It doesn't sound like vegan, although that ultimately turns into that, because if you don't want your foods absorbed high up in your intestinal tract, you don't want to be eating animal foods that have a cell membrane, which gets broken down very quickly high up in your intestinal tract. And the protein, carbohydrate, fat get absorbed high up in your intestinal tract, as opposed to the plant foods
Yeah.
that need to be broken down by the microbiome way down in your intestinal tract.
Yeah, so I have to work on my spiel. I really need to get more specific and a little bit more thinking about it, more yeah, so I need to do more thinking about it.
Okay,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
welcome.
And
Anyone else?
I'm sure you guys talked about non-gluten as being kind of a marketing ploy.
Yeah, it's a trendy thing, because the estimates are only that about 10% of the population is
Yeah.
gluten sensitive, and only about 1% is actually gluten allergic, so
Intolerant.
celiac disease. It's actually more harmful for 90% of the population. It's harmful to go gluten-free because they end up eating less whole grains, less healthy food, and a lot of the gluten-free stuff is really highly processed, and not so good. So it's actually the position statement from organizations. I think it was even the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that didn't recommend. It's actually said studies showed they do not recommend going gluten-free unless you have celiac disease, or if you're really super gluten sensitive, like maybe up to 10% of the population is. So
yeah, boy, how sad.
we have a small group tonight. I guess people are watching. I guess maybe people are watching Trump.
This is why I'm at the group. I mean, the thing is, he lies so much, and I can't handle that. Well, plus I can't stand his hand thing that he does all the time, and it just, oh God, he grosses me out. So I don't want to watch him. Of course, I don't like to watch speeches anyway. I like to watch the analysis afterwards. That's a lot more interesting to me. But anyway, so what was I going to say? I don't remember. My problem is I have too much stuff tucked in my brain, and it's hard to get out what I want at the time I want it anymore, especially, names and facts and, like Jack LaLanne, So I
Yeah.
definitely know it's just too much. Because I read, I listen to probably 100 books a year while I'm gardening. And so
Wow.
I don't get, I don't really get them, it doesn't get totally inside my brain,
No,
And so
no,
it
no.
makes it hard to remember everything that I read because I read too much or listen. And I'm better at remembering things that I read rather than listen. But
Oh,
hey,
totally. Oh, yeah.
Can I ask a question for the
Sure.
doctors?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a little bit
Yeah.
late. This is an open forum, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is, Kim.
So my cousin has high blood pressure, and her doctor said, let's try something different. Let's make sure you're covering everything that you can with your lifestyle. And she's a super exerciser. So she's been on a keto diet, and her blood pressure has gone way down. It's not a DASH diet. So she's eating fish and some meat, and she is eating a lot of vegetables, but not starchy vegetables. So how do I counter that argument when her blood pressure is gone way down? The doctor even thinks that he can take her off the medication. And here I am thinking, okay, well, good starches and whole grains and all this stuff. But if her blood pressure is going down, I mean, why is it going down? And how do I counter that argument?
How much weight has she lost?
She's lost about 8 pounds, and she's skinny because she exercises like crazy. She didn't do it for the weight. She did it for the blood pressure.
Because usually people that go on keto, one of the reasons their blood pressure goes down is that they lose weight. Because no matter how you lose weight, your blood pressure will go down. If you go on cancer chemotherapy, you'll lose weight and your blood pressure will go down. If you
So maybe
pick up a
that's why she
cocaine
lost.
habit, you lose weight, lose your appetite, your blood pressure goes down. Now, the other consideration is just to see, you would have to compare her diet from before to after. And so, if somebody's eating bacon double cheeseburgers and eating a pretty unhealthy diet, lots of processed foods, and then they go on a ketogenic diet where they're not eating any more processed food, they're eating more vegetables, maybe they are eating more fish and chicken, and before they were eating bacon and sausage, then that's still an improvement in the diet, and your blood pressure is going to go down, and it's going to be healthier because the diet is healthier now than it was before. So it's always going to be a comparison of before and after, and then how much weight they're losing, and then I guess then only time will tell if usually when someone stops losing weight and they're on a ketogenic diet, then their blood pressure tends to go back up, and then their cholesterol goes up, and then there's the long-term health risks of
I know. I
eating
was
that
trying
way.
to
So
tell her about the cholesterol, so she's going to have that checked in a month or so.
but it could be their diet is improved, and she's going to get some health benefits because it's still an improvement in the diet that she was eating before, potentially. So
yeah. Okay, thank you. It was probably the weight loss. Thanks.
yeah, and there also could be salt. Maybe she's not eating as much salt
Right.
because
She's been off salt for a long time. She's
Okay.
had high blood pressure forever and ever. So
Yeah, because that can be
yeah.
an issue for some people.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's kind of a quiet room tonight.
Yeah. Small group too.
It is. Everybody is pretty well educated. They've been here for a lot of classes, and not everyone perhaps, but any other questions? Any other thoughts?
I have a question for Dr. Ross.
Yes, Kim.
How's your granddaughter?
She is doing fine. She actually doesn't live with us anymore. She's
Oh, she
down-
doesn't.
She's back down with her mom and sister in Medford, and she's working as a substitute teacher, getting some training. She got her degree in 2.5 years at U of O, and then in English, and now she's getting practical training so she could go on and get a teaching degree or whatever, ultimately. But she's not living with us. They're doing the exercise thing. I don't know about, I don't have a clue about the food issue.
I'm doing True North again in a couple of weeks
Are you?
for 2
Okay,
weeks.
well, that'll be exciting if you keep us posted about what happens with that. We'd like to hear about it.
I will.
Okay, good.
What is True North?
The water fasting retreat center, or health center, I guess they call it, in Santa Rosa, California. And it's run by Dr. What's his name? I just
See, I'm not the only one.
Goldhammer.
Goldhammer, who wrote the book the
Pleasure Trap.
The Pleasure Trap.
How long? You're only on water for a number of days or?
Weeks.
Oh, water only?
Yeah, I might have, they gave me a disgusting broth, which it wasn't disgusting, but it was just, it was kale, and it was just, it wasn't like, oh, good, I get this yummy broth.
No.
It was zucchini and kale, and it was just for electrolytes. So they might give me that. They're going to check, I guess, my electrolytes and decide if I'm going to be on that. Some people are on juice fast there, depending on what they're there for, but it's mostly just a water fast.
Did you suffer much before? How hard was it?
Not at all. It was easy.
Oh, God.
It was easy.
Santa Rosa is not too far away from where I live.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half from me. So
From San Francisco, yeah.
It's I would recommend it. It's not a resort. It's not fancy. It's very basic.
It'd be too much money for me, I'm sure.
Well, it's not terrible. And insurance pays for some of it, I think. So you might you might check it out.
Yeah, good luck.
AJ, not doctor, but Chef AJ goes there quite often.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's among the people who go there. And, you know, sometimes they're celebrities. So maybe I'll see a celebrity.
You never know.
You never know. She's a celebrity. So anyway, I'll keep you
Good luck.
posted. Thank you.
Has Oprah ever gone there? I'm just curious. I was curious. Okay, Charlie, you took that test to be a lifestyle medicine, get that certification or whatever they call that.
Yeah.
Have you heard from them yet, or?
Yeah, I passed in December.
Oh, okay. I must have
And-
missed the time when you told us.
Yeah, so it was a bit challenging. I didn't feel really all that comfortable. I went out of the room thinking the goal of taking that test was for the American College of Lifestyle Medicine to let me know not to get too cocky about the knowledge that I thought I had. And that I should need to keep studying and keep learning And that's what I walked away with. And fortunately, I passed.
Yeah, because I remember you telling about taking the test and how challenging it was, and
Yeah.
I had missed the results. So,
Okay.
well, congratulations.
Well, thank you. You know, I'm kind of like a dinosaur doctor after doing this for 48 years now. And it was kind of an odd thing to be trying to get certified at an older age like this. But it was rewarding in the fact that I learned a whole lot, learned a bunch about, you know, talking to patients about using motivational interviewing techniques and positive psychology and other kinds of things, and about sleep and the exercise. And, you know, there were just so many aspects that I learned. It was well worth it. And I would advise anybody who's interested to consider doing that.
Charlie, am I muted still?
No.
I wanted to ask about that water fasting. If you're eating a lot of, you're not eating very much. So what are you doing? Are you studying or what do you do?
She's dancing in the hallway, having fun. Go ahead, Kim. Tell them what you do.
Well, I mean, some people do puzzles. Some people just take books. I take some artwork and I do that. And they have lectures. They have movies, in-house movie channel for like health lectures and movies. It's kind of just a nice downtime. You know, you can plug in, I suppose, and do stuff on your, you know, phone and stuff, but I'm going there to try to unplug. So you can do what you want. You're not incarcerated. You can go outside. There's a market across the street. If you wanted to go buy ding dongs or something, you could go buy those. So it's all, you know, it's just time to take to like unplug and
So you go 2 weeks?
I'm going this time for 2 weeks. Yeah.
And is it like predominantly people that are wanting to lose weight, or is it predominantly people that are dealing with some diseases, like probably because of some cancers?
Yeah, it's a lot of people going there for inflammatory diseases. Yeah. Yeah. They take it seriously. It's not, as I said, it's not a resort. It's not, I remember the first time I went, I said, is there a pool? And they looked at me, they said, no, there's a little fountain, but there's, it's really, it's an old 60s apartment building that has been turned into the center. And they have some outlying buildings. And it's in Santa Rosa, so you can walk around. And it's a nice area. It's near the cemetery. But so you do what you want.
Well, that's interesting. I have a lot of people ask me about, do you fast? And I say, well, a lot of people do. Most of us don't fast more than 24 hours, but that's a whole different ball game. I think if my cancer like started metastasizing, I might look into something like that I feel is kind of brutal.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go there for that, you know, when they find that treatment hasn't helped, or they want a more natural approach, or let their body do the healing. I think a lot of people do that, and it's under medical supervision. So it's not like if your electrolytes are really low, or if you feel faint, or, I mean, you're checking in with health professionals twice a day. So it is supervised, medically supervised.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Glad that I tuned in time to hear about this.
True North, you go check it out.
Well, I have your attention, and you don't seem to have a lot of conversation going on. Can I ask about, I was just shopping, and I remember Charlie saying that the best cabbage as far as nutrition is, I'm not sure I know how to say it, Rachidio, the purple and white cabbage.
I don't know if that's the name. I just thought of it as purple cabbage.
No, it's not purple. I eat a lot of purple cabbage.
Oh,
Radicchio.
You know what
Are
I
you talking
radicchio.
about
Radicchio.
Radicchio.
Yeah. So how
radicchio? I think is how you say it.
It's a purple lettuce.
Oh, it is a lettuce?
Yeah, radicchio.
So people put it in their salads?
Yeah, it's got a little bitter taste to it, but it comes off in kind of a leaf, uh, like almost like a little cabbage, but it's not nearly as thick. It's very thin.
Yeah, I
leaf.
thought it almost, well, I probably never cooked it right. It was kind of slimy. I'm
I
sure.
eat it raw.
Yeah.
So I should just use it as a snack at night or in my salads.
Yeah, so we take it and we pull off a leaf and then we put in a half a handful of spinach and a half a handful of arugula and maybe a few sprouts, and then we curl it up and eat it like a sandwich in the morning.
Okay, well, I'm going to try it next shop.
Radicchio.
Yeah, well, I see it every time I go to buy my greens, and I just didn't really, I didn't look it up yet. I should have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So that's a really nice letter. You can leave it on that one. I just wanted to see it. Thank you. You're right.
Okay, any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Can I borrow your glasses? I thought I had mine in my pocket. Thank you.
I thought you were asking me if you could borrow my glasses, Ken, because I can see you and I think your phone, you're not muted, so I see you put them on.
I thought I disconnected.
Okay, that's funny.
I think as far as why it's quiet tonight, I was just at Jerry's, man. There's nobody in there. And there's a lot going on. Today's just been an interesting day, well, politically. And I think a lot of people are stunned. Well, with that, I think I'm going to take off. And
okay, well, you have a good night.
Some kind of, yeah, I'm going to watch something from Washington, D.C. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Alice, I got to participate in the Mountain States Osteopathic Physician Conference. There were 29 people who showed up online, and we did a talk. I did it in combination with another DO on GLP-1, the physiology and the drugs and the side effects. And we spent about 50 minutes on that session this last Saturday. And I tried to give the argument that, you know, hey, I think that these drugs are a distraction from keeping people from actually making healthier lifestyle choices. And so then after my session, there was a session on exercise, and then there was the diabetic doctor who is an expert, and he knew every drug and side effect and what needed to be done for a patient with diabetes. The patient with diabetes had kidney trouble, had this trouble, that trouble, and he wound up prescribing 5 different medications on this visit for this patient. And so I asked him, so what's the cause of diabetes? And he said, that's a good question. Like, he says, you know, there's the processed foods, and there's some social issues and exercise. I said, okay, so the actual cause, you just told us, you spent 40 minutes or so talking about all these drugs to treat this problem and that problem and this and that. But the patient really doesn't have a deficiency in those drugs. There's a root cause, and it could be one of those things you mentioned, or 2 or 3 or 4. Why aren't we addressing those issues? There was a slight pause. Well, I do address those. He says, but the patients don't want to go to the diabetic education classes I send them to. So what was my response to that? I said, yeah, depending on how you approach the topic and how enthusiastic you are and whether you've done this yourself and, whether a patient thinks that there may be hope that they don't have to take these pills for the rest of their life, but you just spent 40 minutes talking about how important each of these pills were to their life. Isn't that kind of confusing and a distraction? So needless to say, I don't think I'll be called back to the next year's.
Good for you, Charlie.
But I sure had fun at the session.
Knock 'em dead.
I mean, because you're getting people who seek you out. Like today, I saw a guy and he says, well, I have about 4 to 6 drinks a day.
Wow.
And he's not interested in cutting back.
Yeah.
And he hasn't had a DUI. He does have trouble sleeping. And I suggested that could be related. But he is happy with his choice.
Turn off.
And I said, look, I'm no judgment, but we think alcohol is unhealthy, and I would categorize you as a moderate to heavy drinker. And everything that I read says it's not good for you.
So does the other questions, has this had any impact on your life? The amount you're drinking, the benefits and the disadvantages. What are the benefits you've been having from this? Oh, I feel good. It relaxes me. Well, has it, are there any disadvantages? Have you ever found it to be a problem? And so then they start thinking, yeah, there was this one time that I had a little too much to drink and I wound up, didn't know where I was at or whatever. Or a question of, hey, in 5 years, if you continue on at this rate, have you had any concerns about what your life might be like? Do you think it might have any influence on your liver at all?
His liver functions were completely normal.
Well, what about
His
the
lab-
cancer, the link with cancer that they've just established?
I said it's associated with a lot of different kinds of cancer, but everything on his blood work was picture perfect.
Yeah.
He had come in, he'd come in a couple of weeks ago with black stools. So I was really concerned.
Want to do that?
And I got him in for an emergency endoscopy, colonoscopy. Everything was normal. It was normal. Now, I think he has intermittent gastritis from his alcohol, and I think that's what's causing intermittent bleeding, but he didn't have gastritis on his endoscopy. He had 2 small polyps.
So black stool means he has blood in the stomach, which combines with the hydrochloric acid, or it could be Pepto-Bismol, or it could be iron.
No, I think he's having intermittent gastritis.
Well, that's pretty significant if you're having some intermittent bleeding from your stomach, but he doesn't think that's a problem because he's still alive, right?
He seemed quite stuck in where he is, not interested in making change at this time, I would say.
Yeah, so he's in the pre-contemplative stage of drinking, and there is nothing you can do other than, I guess at this stage is when you try to use motivational interviewing techniques to try to get him to at least think about it, the benefits, the disadvantages. And if at this point he's just going to dig his heels in, you've at least brought up the topic, and then you tell him, hey, in the future, if you have any thoughts, you get worried about this, be happy to talk about it some more with you, and then it's up to him.
So I said, have you, I think that your sleep issues could be related to drinking. You go into withdrawal after 6 hours.
Yeah,
And
good.
sleeping pills are really addictive. I wouldn't feel comfortable, using. Have you considered doing something like a dry January, or
Yeah.
sobriety? He said,
And
he said, well, I kind of did. I had a few drinks, but not too much. And I realized, I'm not addicted, and it didn't help me that much. So I'm like, okay.
yeah, so if you have someone like that for that particular issue, you can't beat up on yourself. You brought it up, you planted a seed, and the patient may water it. It may be 6 months or 2 years or 20 years before he finally comes to grips with it. But if he has enough black stool and starts getting anemic or whatever it is, he may come to grips with it sooner. So I think that's the best you can do, is just have a little discussion, but not worry about it. That's my thought. Can't please all the people all the time. The problem is if you can't please any person anytime, then you may have to find something else to do with your life.
I haven't really gotten anyone to do plant-based vegan, but I came up with sort of a new idea,
Okay.
which was that try to eat 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Eat
Yeah.
the rest of the stuff, but just increase to 9 servings a day of fruits and vegetables,
Yeah.
and you'll be really full, and you won't want to eat so much of the other stuff.
And
Good strategy.
what's the response?
Well, it's new. It's a new tack. I mean, I'm
Okay.
just starting to introduce that to
There's a lot
folks.
of studies on it's positive psychology, positive messaging. So instead of saying don't eat this or don't eat that, just say eat more of this and eat more of
Right.
that, and don't
Right.
even focus on what else they're eating, and just try to get more of this and more of that into your diet somehow, and give them ideas of what do you like for breakfast, what do you like for lunch, what do you like for dinner, and then a couple substitutions you could make to work in more of those whole plant foods.
And I guess you can encourage them along a little bit more by saying, I mean, add these additional fruit and vegetables. By the way, do you really like any fruit? Which fruits do you like? And they say, well, I like apples and bananas and oranges. So it gets them thinking and verbalizing, okay, I could go out and buy these kind of things. Same way with the veggies. Are there any vegetables that you like or have never tried and might consider? And give them an opportunity to kind of, go through in their mind, what is it that I could buy? Just a thought.
Yeah.
And when they're trying to add more servings of vegetables, if they're kind of balking at what people think of as rabbit food, just emphasize the starchy vegetables. Hey, do you like potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, corn, squash? People like Dr. McDougall, we love starch. We're starchivores, or that's what we're designed. That's our food. And so people will, because I tell them that counts as vegetables. Those are plants too. So beans are plants, and potatoes and sweet potatoes and corn and yams. Those are all plants. And so that counts. So that they'll sometimes be more willing to embrace that before they'll embrace kale and celery and cauliflower and other leafy greens and things.
Well, one thing I always think is people are always saying, "Oh, am I getting enough protein? I need more protein. I'm taking this for my protein." I get that a lot. And so I have to tell them that, we don't have a protein deficiency here in the US. What we have is a fiber deficiency. Well, how do they get their fiber? Fruits and vegetables. So that might be a way to go about, for some people, might help. And I know with me, I kind of gradually well, I didn't read, I think in 2019 is when I read Dr. Greger's book. And but before that, I had kind of gone to vegetarian, not totally. And I've said this before, I've lost about 60 pounds over 15 years, just living my life, eating better. And then with Dr. Greger's book, I go, you know what? If you eat everything he tells you to eat, the 12 things, you're not going to be hungry, That's a lot of food in that, his thing. So, I mean, that's one thing I really like about the Whole Foods plant-based is I like to eat, and I can eat. I mean, I can pretty much eat all day long, which is probably not the best thing in the world, but and not gain weight. So that's what I like about it. So I don't know. Everybody's different.
So Alice, I'm doing a little more thinking about this, that you said you haven't been able to convince one person yet to transition their diet to a whole food plant-based diet. So I'm thinking to myself, there must be someone who has come in who has an elevated blood pressure or who has new onset diabetes or pre-diabetes. And so you have a number and you say to yourself, okay, do I continue on in the old-fashioned way of practice and just start them on medicine because, gee, their hemoglobin A1C is 7 or 8 or 9 today. I got to start them on something. So I'm going to do that. Or their blood pressure is in a range like, I don't know, 150 over 90. They're not going to die in a day or in a week or in a month. You know that. You want to try to get the people to buy into something that really is going to be healthy for them. So you tell them, look, this is what the normal blood pressure is, 120 over 80. If you were in that range, we wouldn't need to be having a discussion. Or, your hemoglobin A1C is now in the pre-diabetic or in the diabetic range. So you have a choice. Your choice is pills, which are going to treat symptoms, lower numbers, but not necessarily treat the root cause. Or we could do a trial, if you wanted, of 2 to 3 or 6 months, and where you actually make food choices that are going to potentially fix this issue. What would you prefer to do? And I'll bet you that's how I try to talk with my people when they come in with their bagfuls of pills, or if it's a new person, give them a choice, let them decide. And if they say, yeah, I don't want to take pills, that's the opening to share Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. It's the opening to refer them to these classes. There's free classes you can go to online. And get some support. Just a thought.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I've helped people move in a direction. I just don't think anyone's gone full on, plant-based vegan.
Okay, well, if they're moving in the direction, that's doing good.
Yeah. No, it's
If you're
good.
able to, when you find your patients where they get off of their high blood pressure, you don't have to start it. That will give you some more motivation to go to have another class, teach one of these classes one day. I'm kind of like a Gila monster on this issue. I grab on and try to keep encouraging you along on the path. You've done great, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Really
It's
appreciate
good. And
the
I feel
time
like
you
I'm
put in.
working more towards holistic.
Definitely, there's a change over the last year. It's been really heartwarming.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Anybody else have a parting thought or question before we move on? Next week is going to be what? Friday is dementia.
Alzheimer's,
And
yeah.
that means next Tuesday is going to be dementia. And-
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Tim, keep a log. I really want to hear about True North.
Yeah, Kim. She did a really good job of discussing her last time through there. It was, I think we have that recorded somewhere. I don't
Oh
remember.
gosh, I
what
hope not.
month.
But I'm happy to, yeah, and I can log on there. I'm not going till the couple of weeks, the 18th. So, oh, on the 18th, my first day. It's a Tuesday, I think. So I'll be with you guys next week, and
Nice.
then when I'm there, if I don't pass out.
Well, you didn't the first time, not
No,
like when you will the
I'll be
second.
fine. I'll be fine.
All right.
Thank you
Anybody
so much,
else?
and thank you to
Thanks,
Alice.
everyone.
We have another doctor on board. That's really great.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Scott, thank you.
Yeah. Good night.
Yes.
Have a good night, everyone.
Night.
Night, everybody.
You too. Good night.
Night.